It is 11:34 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's the 5th day of June, 2026, and this is episode 1336 of Bitcoin. And it's me, your host, David Bennett, bringing you all the news that you can use about Bitcoin and macro from around the world. And I am very sorry that this is late today. And I'm wondering if anybody out there was like going, oh man, he's probably curled up fetal on the floor because of Bitcoin and drooling on himself. And no, I had to get a windshield replaced. Yeah, I know, man. My wife has basically been on my ass because there was a crack in the top and the bottom. And I'm like, dude, as long as it's not glinting sunlight directly into my eyes while I'm driving, I don't give a shit. But the wife does give a shit. And she finally was like kind of putting her foot down saying, dude, get the windshield fixed or at least exchanged. So, the crack was too big. There's no fixing that. And the guy said, look, be here at 9 a.m. Otherwise, I can't do it for a week. So my apologies for being as late as I am to you today. Let's just start off with Zcash. Zcash drops 30% as Shielded Labs reveals more about infinite counterfeit bug. Oh boy. Yeah, if you didn't hear about it yesterday, Zcash they found a problem. And Cointelegraph's who's writing this one? There it is. Martin Young. Cointelegraph's Martin Young is writing this one. The price of ZEC fell on Thursday after further details were disclosed about a critical counterfeiting vulnerability in Zcash's Orchard pool that could theoretically allow some bad actor to mint an unlimited amount of Zcash. According to a post on X, security engineer Taylor Hornby, who was engaged by Shielded Labs, discovered the bug on May the 29th and disclosed it to the Zcash Open Development Lab, which deployed an emergency response to fix the vulnerability with a hard fork that was activated on June the 3rd. That's the way we do things on Zcash, is we just fork it. However, there are now new concerns about the extent to which the vulnerability, which has existed since May of 2022, has been used, leading Zcash to fall more than 30% over the past 24 hours to $410 at the time of writing. Its market capitalization has shrunk by more than $3 billion. However, BitMEX co-founder Arthur Hayes said on Friday it is unlikely that Zcash has been illegally minted this way, though he acknowledged, quote, it cannot be formally, cryptographically proved impossible, end quote. Further quote, sadly, due to the Orchard Pool exploit, I had to dump our entire Zcash bag. So Arthur Hayes is now out of Zcash. The Holy Trinity is dead, he added, referring to Zcash and the two other tokens he sold this week, which was Hyperliquid and Near Protocol, and he did not sell any Bitcoin, that he is saying. Taylor used Claude Opus 4.8. That was released on May the 28th, just one day before the discovery, to assist in a highly targeted review of the Orchard circuit, the cryptographic component underlying Zcash's Orchard shielded pool. The critical bug allowed false inputs into an elliptic curve multiplication check, which means the math that is supposed to cryptographically verify transactions could actually be fooled. Taylor built and tested a working exploit which generated unlimited counterfeit Zcash. Quote, if he had run the same tool on Zcash mainnet, it would have generated unlimited, undetectable counterfeit Zcash in his mainnet Zcash wallet, the security researcher said on Friday. The primary concern is that there is no cryptographic way to prove whether anyone had previously exploited it before it was patched, and that's due to Orchard's privacy properties. However, Shielded Labs was not overly concerned because the bug was subtle enough to evade years of expert review, and the discovery was a deliberate, highly skilled effort using cutting-edge tools and artificial intelligence. The firm is working with Zcash developers on a proposed network upgrade, to allow anyone to verify the integrity of the Zcash supply and to prove the non-existence of counterfeit tokens in the Orchard pool, they stated. Mert Mumtaz, co-founder and CEO of Solana tooling firm Helios, said that almost all privacy protocols have a variant of this very same vulnerability. Quote, "This same FUD comes back every 5 months as new people learn how privacy pools work," he said. He explained that it is a theoretical risk in most zero-knowledge privacy protocols from circuit bugs that are hard to exploit or even detect. This is not the first time a similar vulnerability in Zcash has been discovered, because in 2018, a counterfeiting vulnerability in the cryptography underlying ZK proofs was discovered by the Electric Coin Company, which remediated it with no losses in 2019. So there you go. This has been something that Bitcoin maximalists have been talking about for a long time, was that if there is a way to counterfeit Zcash, no one can know. And I don't mean that as like somebody's trying to, do all some kind of subterfuge. It means you can't know. Because the way Zcash is built, you can't really audit how much Zcash is there, how much has been printed. You just kind of can't, because that's sort of the trade-off. And we've been talking about that shit for years, but of course, everybody just pointed at us and laughed. Well, they're not laughing now, because Zcash has to weigh a new shielded pool after this counterfeiting flaw was found. And this is Ezra Reguera, also writing from Cointelegraph. Zcash developers and researchers are discussing whether a new shielded pool could help restore supply verification confidence after the recently patched Orchard vulnerability. Shielded Labs, an independent Swiss-based Zcash support organization, said in a security update on Friday that it is exploring a proposed network upgrade that would deploy a new shielded pool and enforce what's called turnstile accounting on coins moving from Orchard, giving users a clearer way to verify the integrity of funds moving out of that pool. The group said the proposal is still subject to further explanation and community review. Shielded Labs said it plans to publish a follow-up post next week explaining how the upgrade would work and what trade-offs it could involve. Zcash Open Development Lab founder Josh Swihart said in a separate X post that a second Orchard pool could, in principle, be targeted for Zcash's NU7 upgrade at the end of July. However, he said he was not taking a fixed position on whether the community should build that second Orchard pool. The discussion follows an emergency Zcash upgrade that patched the Orchard vulnerability. Shielded Labs said could have allowed counterfeit Zcash within the pool, though he said prior exploitation was unlikely. In the security update, Shielded Labs said that the Orchard vulnerability could have allowed a bad actor to create an unlimited amount of counterfeit Zcash. Yes, we know. We saw that. And the FUD was proven to be correct, even though, as far as we know, nobody did any counterfeit Zcash, but we don't know. See, that's the problem. There's always trade-offs. There was years of argument, and still is argument about the fact that Bitcoin's blockchain is fully public. There is no transaction that you can make on the Bitcoin blockchain that is anywhere remotely shielded. The best you can do is to do a Bitcoin transaction from a wallet whose address will be public and send it to a mixing pool or something like that. And then after a while, after it's been mixed up with a whole bunch of other stuff, send the same exact amount of Bitcoin to a completely different wallet that's built by a completely different set of private keys. Although technically you could gin up another wallet from the same private key, and it would probably be just okay. But I don't know. I would probably just go with a brand new set of private keys and generate a completely different set of wallets for it. But that's it. The chain, the transaction that shows the Bitcoin going to the pool is going to be public. The transaction that shows Bitcoin coming back on the chain is going to be public. Every completely public and, let's say, innocent transaction you make on the Bitcoin blockchain is completely public. And the Zcash guys were telling us why that's why we're wrong. And then they said, you can't see anything about Zcash. And then we looked at it and said, yeah, no shit. It's so opaque. You can't tell if somebody printed up a whole bunch of Zcash and walked away with it. Literally, we still don't know. We literally still do not know to this day whether or not it's ever happened that somebody found that particular exploit or even a different exploit and ginned up a whole bunch of Zcash and just basically walked away with it. And this turnstile application or this turnstile deposits and withdrawals kind of shit that they're talking about with the shielded pool, yeah, I'm not sure that that's going to be all that helpful to the guys holding Zcash. I'm telling you, shit coins are not where it's going to be. They're all going to be gobbled up by either exploitation or the FUD of exploitation by artificial intelligence tools. If you're holding any kind of shit coin, see if you can find somebody else to buy your bag. It's not going to be this guy, though. Michael Saylor calls Bitcoin drop a capital rotation to AI as Bitcoin slides below $62,000, which is now right around 60 grand right now. This is Bitcoin Magazine, Micah Zimmerman writing. Bitcoin fell as low as 61,400 overnight before trimming losses to 62,400, which now doesn't make sense. This was written earlier this morning, so that these numbers are terrible. The drop has pushed Bitcoin into a technical bear market, with Bitcoin now off 22.7% from its 4-week high, wiping out more than $600 billion in total crypto market value. At the center of the debate, Strategy's executive chairman, Michael Saylor, who took to X on Thursday morning to offer his read on the sell-off. Quote, capital markets are funding the artificial intelligence build-out at historic scale, $400 billion over the period of 6 months. Bitcoin ETFs have seen $4 billion of outflows since May the 14th, pressuring Bitcoin. This is a capital rotation, not a Bitcoin impairment. Volatility creates opportunity, end quote. Saylor's thesis holds that institutions are pulling money from Bitcoin and redirecting it into artificial intelligence infrastructure. A trade. It's not really a verdict on the asset. The AI spending figures give his argument a fair amount of weight. Wall Street consensus puts combined hyperscaler capital expenditures above $600 billion for 2026 alone, with credit sites estimating roughly $450 billion of that flowing into just AI hardware, servers, and other networking kinds of gear. But Saylor's words arrived with a footnote that bears found hard to ignore. Strategy, the largest corporate Bitcoin holder in the world, disclosed in the June 1st Form 8K that it sold 32 Bitcoin. Oh, for fuck's sake, people. In dollar terms, the sale is a rounding error against a position worth roughly $61 billion. In psychological terms, the market treated it as a break in character. Strategy had not sold a single Bitcoin since late 2022, and Saylor's identity as an unwavering Bitcoin accumulator had become a market signal in its own right. Analysts said the move deepened bearish sentiment and accelerated the price decline. 2 weeks ago and 1 week before the sale, Strategy shifted its focus from buying Bitcoin to strengthening its balance sheet, repurchasing $1.5 billion of its 0% convertible notes due 2029 for $1.38 billion. So he got a hell of a discount on that. It is an 8% discount, in fact, that reduced his debt obligations by roughly $120 million. The move lowered the company's outstanding convertible debt from $8.2 billion to $6.7 billion, while leaving it with $871 million in cash. And at the time, Strategy held 843,738 Bitcoin at the time and said it planned to rebuild its liquidity buffer through future capital raises. Yeah, well, we'll see. Because the whole thing makes me feel kind of dirty. Just a little bit, which is why I'm glad I'm friends with Soap Miner. He's the Circle P vendor of the day. The Circle P is open for business. It's where I bring plebs just like you with goods and services to plebs just like you who want to buy said goods and services. But you will buy it in Bitcoin, because if you're not selling it in Bitcoin, you're not in the Circle P. And Soap Miner will make you clean as a whistle. Get away clean with Soap Miner at soapminer.com. That's soapminer.com, and get the very best handmade tallow soap. It's 100% grass-fed beef tallow, distilled water, and sodium hydroxide, otherwise known as lye. And then that's his base soap. And you can actually get that. It's called, what is it called? Yes, Rough Cut Tallow. It has 3 ingredients. It's pure soap the way that your great-grandparents used to make it. But he's also got cedarwood, pine tar. He's got lemongrass. He's got a lavender tallow bar. He's got tea tree tallow, peppermint, Earl Grey, which is one of my favorites, as well as the cedarwood tallow bar. So go to soapminer.com. That's soapminer.com, and use Bitcoin and as the coupon code for 10% off your total purchase. And it also lets Soap Miner know I made a sale for him here on the Circle P, and he will get me back with sats on the other side. That's soapminer.com. Use Bitcoin and for 10% off. JPMorgan, Bank of America, and Citi to start blockchain offensive with shared tokenized network. I have no idea, but I doubt this is going to go any. It's just like going to be like JPM coin, right? Anyway, Omkar Godboll with CoinDesk writing. America's biggest banks, including JPMorgan, Citi, and Bank of America, plan to build a shared tokenized deposit network by the first half of 2027 to protect their deposits from the threat posed by stablecoins, according to the Wall Street Journal. The system will be operated by the clearinghouse. That's the payments company collectively owned by the banks. Some banks are calling the network the bridge. Others call it the chain. Tokenized deposits are blockchain representations of customers' money held at a bank. The planned system will convert these deposits into a digital token that can be transferred swiftly on a blockchain. Stablecoins are dollar-pegged digital assets issued by crypto companies that live outside the traditional banking system. The Clarity Act legislation currently advancing through Congress could allow them to pay returns to holders, potentially making bank deposits less attractive because the tokens also offer faster, cheaper payment capabilities over a blockchain. If customers adopt stablecoins at scale, banks could face a deposit flight to crypto wallets, and deposits are what banks rely on to extend credit in the economy. The tokenized deposit network is designed to ensure deposits remain within the banking system while giving them crypto-like capabilities. The Wall Street Journal report said the clearinghouse expects large multinationals to embrace the tokenized deposit network as a gateway to programmable treasury options, real-time liquidity management, and cross-border payments. Quote, "This is a big move for banks," CEO David Watson told the newspaper, describing a, quote, "radically different future around on-chain payments." Yeah, we'll see. Meanwhile, let's run the numbers. CNBC, futures and commodities, oil getting hit hard. Merbon crude is down 2.5 points to 91.17. Brent North Sea is down 1.8% to 93.25. And West Texas Intermediate is down to $90.66 after a 2.5% decline. Natural gas is down 3.25%, but gasoline is up 0.4% to $3.05 a gallon. Metals are all down today. Palladium down 6.4, Gold is down 3.6 to 43.41 and 8 dimes, so even Peter Schiff isn't escaping any of this. Platinum is down 6.5%, silver is down 7.8 to 68.18 an ounce, and copper is down 4.14. Ag, only 2 in the green today. Our biggest winner is 0.48% to the upside. That'd be rough rice. And our biggest loser is chocolate, 5.5% to the downside. Live cattle crawling sideways in the green, but lean hogs down 2.8%. Feeder cattle are up a tenth. And then, wow, dude, equity's just getting freaking smacked like a little bitch today. S&P is down 2 1/3. Holy crap. And the NASDAQ is down 4 1/3. Guys, that is 1,335.5 points to the downside. The NASDAQ stands at 29,152.75. So even the guys that are rushing in, they're taking liquidity back out 7 days before the SpaceX IPO, because I think it's supposed to be Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. 7 days would be Friday, wouldn't it? I digress. The Dow is down over a point to 51.83, and the S&P Mini is down 2 points. Wow. And then there's Bitcoin at $59,330. That is a $1.19 trillion market cap. You can get 13.8 ounces of your favorite shiny metal rock with your one Bitcoin, of which there are 20,038,879 and 1/4 of. Average fees per block, 0.03 Bitcoin taken in fees on a per block basis. And there's about 50 blocks carrying 114,000 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear at high priority rates of 5 sats per VByte. Low priority gets you in at 3. And then hash rate is down to 905 exahashes per second. Still a lot of protection for the Bitcoin network. And from yesterday's episode of Bitcoin and 17 and Sanctioned, Oak Grove with 4,200 sats, thank you, sir, says, per Sunday, how is the ranch doing? Also, it is starting to seem like the only solutions are becoming Fed posts. Per Satoshi, per Santos/Kalshi, how did you miss that Santos pulled the South Park episode where Satan boxed Jesus and threw the fight to win all the money? Mr. Sat Stacker with 1,000 sats says nothing. Noster Gang with 1,000 sats says, I have been testing out the Passport Prime lately. First impressions are solid. The UI, fantastic. I think it's a real contender right up there with Cold Card and Bitbox. Thank you for that, Noster Gang. Jason High with 250 says, thanks for the Bible verse. You're welcome. Jason High with another 250 sats says, I went to Computex a few times back when I lived in Taiwan. Mostly I just walked around the booths looking at the cool stuff. And that's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. Yes, this is going to be a shorter show because that whole windshield thing sort of compressed my time today. Starting off with this one, Bitcoin miners emerge as power landlords of artificial intelligence boom, and revenue will surge, according to Bernstein. This is out of decrypt.co. Wall Street analysts are betting that Bitcoin miners are quietly becoming indispensable to the artificial intelligence industry as power landlords, according to a research note published Wednesday by Bernstein, the investment firm owned by Societe Generale. The report, which initiates coverage on 2 mining companies, TeraWulf and Cipher Digital, both assigned outperform ratings, argues that former crypto-centric operators are uniquely positioned to solve one of AI's most pressing bottlenecks, access to large-scale, ready-to-use power. The numbers underscore how quickly the industry is transformed. Miners have struck 17 deals worth more than $110 billion over the past 2 years, contracting out roughly 6 gigawatts of power to companies including Google, Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and CoreWeave. accounting for about 10% of all AI data centers currently under construction in the United States. Quote, Bitcoin miners remained best positioned to solve time to compute, the analysts wrote, pointing to the industry's planned 30 gigawatt power portfolio and its operational experience delivering what the report calls warm powered shells, which are facilities with electricity already flowing, ready for compute hardware to move in. Bernstein projects that the aggregate AI revenue of the companies it covers will climb from $1.2 billion this year to $10.7 billion by 2030. TeraWulf, anchored by a partnership with FluidStack and Google, is expected to reach $1.7 billion in AI revenue by that point, with EBITDA margins approaching 84%. Cipher Digital, whose client base is majority hyperscaler, is projected to hit $1.2 billion in AI revenue with margins near 93%. Co-location model the companies favor. The co-location model that the companies favor, leasing powered facilities under long-term take-or-pay contracts, has attracted particular investor attention for its stability. Project financing markets are now covering 75 to 85% of construction costs for these facilities, Bernstein noted, at interest rates that are well below the returns that the underlying contracts generate. The report reflects a broader shift in how investors and technology executives are thinking about power infrastructure as demand for AI compute accelerates. Securing reliable electricity at scale has become as strategically important as the chips themselves, and the miners who spent years chasing it now find themselves holding a rather valuable asset. Shares in both TeraWulf and Cipher Digital are down on the day as of the writing, but both have put up towering gains so far in 2026, with Wolf up nearly 122% and Cipher rising about 69% during that same span. But we're not done with AI yet, because AI is already developing other AI, says Anthropic, and humans may be slowing things down, according to Decrypt.co. AI has become so effective at writing code and researching that the biggest constraint on developing new AI systems may now be the humans overseeing them, according to a new study by Anthropic. In its report, When AI Builds Itself, published on Thursday, Anthropic argued that Claude is already helping build future AI systems by writing code, running experiments, and assisting with research. A trend the company says could eventually lead to recursive self-improvement, where AI systems help design their own successors. Claude now authors more than 80% of the code merged into its code base, Anthropic said, and has helped engineers increase code output roughly eightfold since 2024. Quote, before Claude Code launched in research preview in February of 2025, this number was in the low single digits, Anthropic wrote, adding that the shift also shows up in the amount of output per engineer. Quote, lines of code merged per engineer per day stayed constant through Anthropic's first 4 years, then began to climb upward in 2025 when Claude began to run code rather than just suggesting it for an engineer to copy-paste. Anthropic said the future could unfold in several ways. AI progress could slow, humans could remain in charge while AI automates much of the work, or AI systems could eventually begin improving their own successors. Quote, taken far enough and given enough compute, the trend points to an AI system capable of fully autonomously designing and developing its very own successor. This is called recursive self-improvement. We are not there yet, and recursive self-improvement is not inevitable, but it could come sooner than most institutions are prepared for. The company said it's too early to know which outcome is most likely, but argues that AI is already helping build AI and acknowledged that lines of code are an imperfect measure of productivity. Yeah, no shit. I think that's a terrible metric. Anyway, none of this guarantees recursive self-improvement is on the horizon, Anthropic later wrote. It's not yet clear that Claude is capable of research judgment, of choosing the right problems to work on. The report comes as AI companies increasingly position their models as research collaborators rather than simple chatbots, Still, Anthropic said the increase in code output reflects a broader acceleration in software development driven by increasingly capable AI agents. Last month, Anthropic upgraded its flagship Claude model to Opus 4.8, continuing a steady stream of releases aimed at improving coding, reasoning, and autonomous task performance. At the same time, rival developer OpenAI has pursued a similar strategy with its own frontier models, launching GPT 5.5 and GPT Rosalind both in April. In May, Google announced Gemini Spark, a personal AI agent that doesn't wait to be asked. It manages tasks across apps, flags items that need attention, and finishes jobs in the background. So there you go. They're already talking about AI building upon itself, which we kind of knew was going to happen. And, nobody knows where the hell any of this goes. And I think that's one of the reasons why everything that's not nailed down is going into markets, because nobody knows what comes next. It's just, it literally is one of those things, right? And that's actually the last article that I have for you today. And I'm really, my apologies for coming in so late in the day. If it wasn't for that windshield, I would have been here like at 8:15 or, whatever. A hell of a lot earlier than this is, but some things, they just can't be helped. And making my wife happy is kind of top of the list right there. So I get it. I'm looking at the chart right now. I get it. I understand. We're all sad. There's people in completely separate industries, the people in gold right now, even after they were, waited for years to get where they are right now, they're still down from their highs. They're sad too. I hear them bitching. The guys with silver that were buying silver at $110 an ounce, they're sad too. There's in fact, let's see, what is the Dow doing right now? Just right now. The Dow is down 674 points. And the SPX is down 183. And NASDAQ NASDAQ is down just over 1,000 points. Even the equity markets are being savaged. And it's just all going to cash. It's just, there is so much confusion. And I really think that the Iran situation is the biggest fog of war that we have. And then people complain about strategy and Saylor. Yeah, he's in there and all that kind of shit. But it's not as much as the fact that nobody knows what's going on in Iran. Nobody knows. The news agencies have no idea. And I was thinking about this yesterday. It's like they've lost interest in trying to even find out. It's like they just don't care. Maybe they're exhausted. Maybe what we're seeing is a complete exhaustion of media companies, print, radio, television, you name it, man. They're just like, I don't care anymore. We're done. We're done with all this. It's the Iran thing that I think is the biggest headwind that everything has. Because you got, essentially, the world is preoccupied with two things: artificial intelligence and Iran. And nothing else matters. Hell, at this point, people aren't even watching the fact that West Texas Intermediate is back up to only $91. It's not over 100. A couple of weeks ago, it stayed over 100 for like a couple of weeks. People would be bitching about it. Now it's back down to 91. People don't seem to care. I'm seeing a general informational malaise going on here, which is, maybe this is what we need. What I was saying yesterday. Today is going to, after I go to sleep tonight, today is going to be my 5th day of not drinking a single drop of alcohol. I mean, it's not like I was walking around with a, bottle of Jack Daniels in my hand all damn day, but still, I drink a couple of glasses of wine, but, I'm starting to realize that's not good. So today is, I mean, not like I'm going to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting or anything like that, but 5 days sober, it's got to count for something, because maybe what all this is doing is burning away like I said yesterday, burning away all the chaff, burning away all of our civilian bullshit, as my dad used to say. He was in the Marine Corps. He wasn't career. He was just, he did his time, he got out, but he was still private first class. So he went through boot camp. And what he said about boot camp was that it slaps you out of your civilian shit. And maybe that's what all this is. Maybe we weren't humble enough. Maybe we really weren't, And then to me, I started asking myself, well, how does one actually be humble? Like when people say humble yourself before God, how do you actually do that? There's not really an instruction sheet in the Bible I've talked to priests about it. I've asked full-blown Episcopal priests, exactly how does this work? I've never been satisfied with any of the answers. How do you humble yourself before God? And I figured it out yesterday when I was talking to my wife. I said something to her and I go, look, I'm about to tell you something. And I don't want you to, I don't want you to think anything of it. It's just, I need to communicate something with you. And I told her what I needed to tell her. And it was humbling because I had to admit something about being dumb about something. And no, not really about Bitcoin. It's something else, but being dumb about something. And I realized in that moment, because I kept expecting a feeling, when you quote unquote try to humble yourself before God. Never got it. But I did with my wife. And I don't think it was as much because she is my wife as much as because she's another human being. And then it started becoming a little bit clearer. Maybe humbling yourself before God requires you to humble yourself before another human being, another person. Maybe that's what it is. Which wouldn't surprise me. Why? For me, the entirety of the universe collectively is God. All of creation, everything in it, all the way to the expanses at the edge of the known universe and all dimensions that we could possibly even dream about. You collapse it all together into a singularity. For me, that's actually God. And I'm talking about the God of Abraham. Not some kind of physics God or something other than, what people have named Jehovah and Yahweh. I mean, we're talking about the Abrahamic God that Christianity worships. That's the God I'm talking about. All of the universe, for me, that's God. There's no eyeballs, there's no ears, there's no capacity for the universe to give me any signaling back when I put my message out into it. But I can't get signaling back when I talk to another human being, which is also part of the creation, technically part of God. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this whole time is to just burn away all the bullshit and get back to some basics for everything. So the weekend is coming and I plan to do something fun. And I want other people to do something fun. Go out, go on a hike, hug your kids, kiss your wife or your husband, call your sister, your brother. If you still have your parents, call them. Just chat. Let's all get back to some basics, and I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.